because it's a timeline. Here we go. Waiting for it to go live. Okay, there we go. We are live on episode 2 of the ADK weekly rock show. There is, of course, someone missing. Where is Kirk? Who the hell knows? He should be here. So
he may be doing an interview.
Maybe he's one of the viewers right now. So if you're viewing Kirk, he must have, I don't know what's happened to him. So Kirk will join us when Kirk joins us. We've got lots to talk about. Well, apparently we have lots to talk about. But we're going to give Kirk a few minutes. So if you are just joining us, we're going to go through. So if you've just joined us, let us know in the chats who you are, if you've got any questions, if you've got anything you'd like to share. If you're joining us and you're sitting there in the field in download somewhere, and you're sitting there with nothing better to do than to watch our ugly mugs on a screen, then say hello, especially if you're from the Hertfordshire metal scene. We would love to know. We know a few of the metalers are already in download tonight, all camped up, ready to rock and metal out. And I think the weather is meant to be holding all right this weekend. A bit of thunderstorms, maybe Saturday, Sunday, possibly.
I'd like to think nobody from who's at download now will be tuning in. I'm sure they'll find some band to watch. Well,
it doesn't kick off till tomorrow.
Really? Oh, right. So okay, maybe.
They're all getting up there to camp tonight through to the next morning. So that's why they're all sitting there. So we know, I've seen Alan from War Torn Wings is up there. I know Joseph and a few of the other guys. I know they're all on their way up there right now. So
yeah, it'll be good to see them. Station.
Sorry,
Mike from Kadama posted on.
Mike's heading up to download.
He's at the station on his way.
Okay, so if any of you guys are watching, please do let us know. We've got the guys from Hereward are here. Welcome, Hereward. We are going to be talking a little bit about you guys, so we'll be nice. We're not that mean, are we, Andy? No, we're lovely. We'll be talking a little bit about Metal to the Masses, of course, coming up in a little bit. We're going to go through the breakdowns of what's coming out, etc. I've had no notification from where Kirk is, so hopefully Kirk is fine and Kirk is well. We just don't know where he is. So, right, let me load up my news for this week, because there is quite a bit to discuss, actually. Of course, Kirk's not here, which means we'll probably get through it all in about 5 minutes without him. Unless he turns up. So, let me bring it up. Okay, no still sign of Kirk. So let's get into some detail. Let's go through some of the what's on. So we have got a few new releases this week. So just to let you know, Dialect, one of the bands from Metal to the Masses this year, they dropped their live performance video Demons this last week, which is utilizing footage from their Metal to the Masses performance. So please go check them out. Very cool band. The Benthic Realm will come out on the 1st of July, the new album. And I have been speaking to the guy, my contact with the band, and I've asked them to send us an advanced copy.
I had physical copies on show today, I saw. Just come on the timeline.
They've had their physical copies arrive ready for release, but I'm waiting for the
possession, yeah.
So I'm hoping they're going to send us the digital. They've obviously said we can have the digital copy on the day, but I've actually said we kind of want it in advance so we can actually do a proper review of it ahead of time, and as soon as possible. We have Before the Sirens obviously dropped their single last Friday. They've got the actual EP drops this Friday, I believe.
Yep.
So one of our favorite. It's the only EP or album that we've reviewed this year that got a buy it from all three of us. Which is it's the first for the channel. So definitely it's a banger of an album. We do recommend people go check out Before the Sirens. From the more mainstream stuff, albums that have come out recently, Avenged Sevenfold, Life is But a Dream, new album, first album since 2016, I think it is from them. That's come out. Can't wait to check it out. Godflesh, Andy's got bored and he's legged it. So Kirk couldn't be here. Andy's had enough and he's gone. Oh no, he's joining me again.
Yeah.
Godflesh, and again, Godflesh, a band I vaguely remember from back in the day, but I haven't heard much about. But I've got a new album called Purge, worth checking. And Scar Symmetry, I've got a new album, The Singularity, that is also out on Friday. So Godflesh, Purge, Scar Symmetry, Singularity, all out on Friday. Definitely worth a check. Okay, so what have we got on musically? So let's just talk a little bit about what's going on with in the live show. There is, of course, a big significant show on this weekend. No, I'm not talking about Download That. We don't care about that. We're talking about Melt to the Masses semi-final one at Hitchin. We have Scarlet Envy, Velofog, Extreme Death Art, and Sentient competing for their place in the final. We also have headliners Countless Skies and openers, which is the first time we've had an opener in this competition, Vendetta. So we've now, I think we've seen all of these bands. I don't think I've actually seen Countless Skies, though. I know you have many times, haven't you, Andy?
Yeah.
What can we expect?
Really chuffed that they're on the headlining slots. What can you expect from Countless Skies? Just an amazing performance. I mean, it's, melodic death metal. They're influenced by this is from their own mouths. Sort of bands like Insomnium and Bellacore. I think their name's taken from a Bellacore song. I know it is. But yeah, it's hard to subscribe. I mean, James Pratt, the lead guitarist, has got this incredible left-handed headless guitar, which he plays a lot of single note melodies on that accompany, the sort of main riffs. Phil Romero, the bass player, has got an amazing operatic voice that he does sort of, he has lines on his own and backing vocals. And you've got Ross King on guitar and vocals up front, who's an amazing front man. They have been touring with a young lady on the cello. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but they've she's been invited along for some live shows, and they've re-recorded some of their sort of best songs from their back catalogue as a new release. So merch and CDs of that sort of recording will be available, I'm sure, as well. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing them again. Really good addition to the competition as a headliner.
So that should be good. Vendetta, they do a lot of covers, if I remember right. Again, I never got to see them, but I know they've played Club 85. You went and saw them, and you've seen them at Ballstock. So
yeah, when they were announced at Ballstock last summer, I was very, very excited because I thought it was the Peterborough hardcore band of the same name, but it's not. It's some young lads. Whether they're still at school or not, they're certainly perhaps in sixth form, but they're very young lads. They played at Ballstock. And yes, they were covers. They opened for Nomadic Rain when we played sometime last year, and I think they introduced a couple of their own compositions. Yeah, really, really good, really entertaining. Good musicians as well. Really good musicians.
Okay, so looking forward to checking them out.
Yeah, I think they're going to sort of, they're developed in the short time that I've sort of seen them play, and they've got the potential of perhaps bringing more and more of their own compositions into their set.
Yeah.
Maybe getting some lyrics and a vocalist, and they'll be a really good band. But yeah, again, check them out. Be an early start on Sunday.
It is an early one. 5:45 doors open, 6:15. I think his first band that would make
so you can catch them if you can. But yeah, that is early.
Worth checking. Right, Kirk has joined us. We're going to admit him in, and no, we're not going to go back over everything. So let's let Kirk in, and he can tell us why he's late for the weekly rock show.
I say we haven't covered anything yet. We're just starting.
We've done everything. We're going to just say we're wrapping up now. We're done. Kirk, hello. You join us.
Sorry about that. I was just interviewing the Cambridge melodic death metal band, The Killer. So I've got a good excuse. Just over.
No, you don't. You said 7 o'clock. You should have been done by 7:40.
Yeah, no. Oh, by the way, I've upgraded my Zoom package, so I've got unlimited now. So that gives me even more excuse to continue talking.
But you could apologise to everyone on the live stream. So we've got the guys from Hereward here. We've got George Marciano. I'll come back to you in a minute. Go from Perseus. S. Davis is on here. So just want you apologise why you're late.
I am very sorry, but I think I've got a legitimate excuse. More content for the A.D.K channel.
Okay, I've got one quick question then. So hang on, did you start the Killer interview at 7 o'clock?
I did.
And you've just finished it?
We did an album review. There's 8 tracks on the.
Okay, no. I'm not editing that in my. There is no way I am editing an hour and 10-minute interview with a band.
We've gone through track by track. So sorry about that. Geez. So where are we up to? What are we discussing?
Right. Well, we've already covered off. We've already talked about new releases this week. We've already covered off live. Well, we're just going through the live stuff now. We've talked about music videos and album releases. I'm going to come back to you, see if you've got any other particular album releases you want to mention, but I just want to go through the comments.
Yeah.
So just want to say hi to Go from Perseus. I hope you had a good break and a good holiday when we spoke the other week. George, I didn't get a chance to catch up with the Warning when they were over here on the tour where they played the Shepherd's Bush Hall. I'm sorry, but we will try the next time. They're not the easiest to speak to. Hi to S. Davis, also from Perseus. Iridium from Norwich were a winner for their Metal to the Masses, so congratulations to them. Don't know anything about that particular band, but I'm sure we should check them out on the channel. Hi to Lee from Millstone. Welcome to join us. Oh yes, Perseus, Go. I know you are. You're under the Perseus account, but Go has actually left Perseus. You don't have to put into the reason why you left on the channel. It's fine. You don't have to put it in the chat, but he is ex Perseus. So just clarifying that in the comments. There we are. We're up to date. Kirk, additional releases we've got this week that we should be checking out on. What have you got?
Yeah, the big release this week is English industrial metal legends Godflesh. They've got an album coming out called Purge on Friday.
I covered that.
Oh, you covered it. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, well done. No, that's a good thing. I assume you covered Scar Symmetry as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's one for Andy. You know, you really judge a band by their name. So this is an English gloomcore. They've just made that
Gloomcore.
Gloomcore band signed to Season of Mist. Are you ready for the name? Johnny the Boy. That's just going to put you off straight away, isn't it?
Oh, that's a rubbish name.
And the album's called You. We've also got an album coming out from. Yeah, this is a strange name for a band. A death and roll band from Sweden called Jesus Chrysler Supercar, and they've got an EP coming out called.
That's terrible as well.
It is $20 spin, which is a cool death metal label. The American death metal band Torture Pack with their album Primeval Onslaught. And what else have we got? Oh, here's another name for you, Dave. That's Andy, which is going to put you off. And again, they are on. I know it's self-released melodic death metal band called the Biscuit Merchant. What a ridiculous
name. What are people doing with these names nowadays?
Exactly.
It's just randomized nonsense.
Yeah, so they're the main ones. Oh, there's also a progressive metal band on Nuclear Blast from the USA called Stellar Circuits, releasing an album called Sight to Sound. I don't really know much about them.
No. Band name's okay, though.
Yeah, prog metal.
Stellar Circuit, it's not too bad.
Oh, and finally, supergroup, technical death metal. I always bring a tech death album in. So I love the band Between the Buried and Me. 3 of their members are in a tech death band called Glass Casket.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to repeat that in my northern accent, Glass Casket. And that's being released on Friday as well on Silent Pendulum Records.
But once I actually knew the band.
Casket.
Glass Casket.
No, Glass Casket.
Yeah. Viewers, go with my pronunciation.
It's actually a band I actually have heard of, so there you go. Right, let's go back to the live shows. We've talked about Metal to the Masses this weekend semi-final, kicking off at 5:45. Make sure to get down there. We've got 6 bands. It's going to be fun to check all these bands out. It's going to be a busy night, definitely, and it's going to be another close one to call.
No, plenty of camera batteries, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be charging like a crazy bugger. To try and make sure I've got enough
reactions on that in the semis.
No, we're not doing any of that. We're doing it only on the final. We'll do a review on the final. I'm not. You remember, I'm the one that has to edit the bugging thing. So no, we're not doing live reactions on this one. We'll talk about it for the final, what we might come up with in the final, but not for the semis. A few future dates. I haven't got much else on. Obviously, we'll talk about download in a minute, but we got Metal Fest London 2, which has got As Vengeance Falls, Calvaria, and Silver Hex on. That's on the 16th of June. Worth checking out. Just a reminder, we've also got Own Your Life playing on the 21st of July and at the old Salutation in Nottingham, and we have Jesus Peace at the Dome in 21st of June. So they're gigs to watch out. But of course, we have download this weekend. There's too many bands.
Before we move on,
what's that?
I've got a couple of shows to talk about.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Just very briefly. I can't believe this one went under my radar, but TriFest in Letchworth in Hertfordshire.
Yeah, okay.
Ring a bell?
No, what is it?
I have seen many a posts about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quick post that I've looked at here, but you know, it's sold out. It's looks really good. But the reason I'm bringing it up is there is a School of Rock stage. Okay, this is Sunday of this weekend, and it's got some of our local favourites, playing. And like I say, it's just completely passed me by.
Who's playing
on Sunday? Before the Sirens, Lowdown, Raise the Devil.
What?
And Aeronor. I mean, it's a Hertfordshire.
That's on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's early. Starts at 2:30. But I just,
what's the venue in Letchworth Garden City, Andy?
The Rugby Football Club, or the Football Club, the Rugby Club. So it's an outdoor event. Weather looks great, but I just can't believe I've missed it. So I'd have been all over that.
Yeah,
it's a great lineup.
But then you'd be in exactly the same problem of Metal to the Masses and going, well, you're going to support Scarlet Envy, you're going to support Before the Sirens, you're going to support.
Well, I could see Before the Sirens and Lowdown, then head over. But I think the event's sold out. There's posts on the event on the Facebook page about scam tickets going about. So it's obviously a very popular event that's now sold out, and people are trying, fighting tooth and nail to get a ticket.
What was the price on the tickets? Do you know?
I haven't. I've only just come across this today when the bands have put something out. But yeah, looks really good. And the other two I heard about was we've got the Must Kill launch show at the Castle in Luton late this month.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You've got to go to that and film it.
Death Goals as well have got a free show somewhere as well, but I'm not there.
Okay.
I think do you know Death Goals? I'm sure they played at Letchworth Garden City last Saturday at that bookshop, Dave's. We know when the train strike was on and it clashed with the FA Cup final. I was on their page because I'm interviewing them on tomorrow. I'm sure that was last Saturday, Andy. Hopefully not, because I'd love to see them at Dave's, the bookshop. I mean, I can't think of anything more inappropriate than really.
That might be the one. I've got that down. 17th, Kirk.
Oh, cool. Let's go. We need to go to that. Come on, we can film that as well.
Which bookshop?
Dave's. You know when you go to Letchworth Garden City, the only bookshop there, but they also have a music section as well.
You guys can film that. We can talk about that as off screen on something, but I can't attend that one. So,
Dave, can I just mention?
Yeah, it's Dave's bookshop. Free entry Saturday the 17th of June, 6:30.
Oh, I'm definitely going to that then. There is a killer playing on Saturday at London, the Macbeth, Retribution Alive. They're headlining, and the support is Artemis and Apollo and Old Man of Hoy. I've not heard of them. That's Saturday, the 10th of June. And does it say when the doors open? It's £5 in advance. But yeah, that's at N1. That's North London, isn't it? The Macbeth.
Something like that.
Yeah, look out for that. A killer if you fancy seeing some symphonic melodic death metal.
So this is it. So we've got plenty of shows to go to. Whether or not there's too many shows, too many festivals and so forth right now again, which we've talked about earlier in the year. But as long as people are, if everyone attended all the shows that are going on, it'd be great. But let's hopefully we get it for our local show, the Metal to the Masses. We have a good attendance for this Sunday. But I'm sure all the bands will be obviously bringing the crowds, which is what we want to see. But yes, Download. So have either of you guys been to Download before?
No,
Never been. Have you been, Dave?
Yes, I haven't been in many years. I never did camping. That was when I went when it was Download was a single dayer. And that was with Metallica headline. Last time I went was Metallica headlined it, and it was when Lars didn't play. And you had Joey Jordanson played on drums and Dave Lombardo. So we got to watch them play at that point. So that was, and we had Damage Plan were put onto main stage. And so we had Dimebag playing, and they were playing Pantera riffs and stuff like that. They played Walk Live and stuff like that was going on. It was great. It was only 2 stages, I think, at the time as well, which was manageable because you could kind of move between the two. But is there any reason why I know Andy, you've done the occasional festival kind of and a bit of the camping, but is there anything about Download that goes, or even Bloodstock we can talk about that would make you go, I just wouldn't do it? Or is it something you're just going financially, I just got to plan it in?
I haven't done the big festival camping. I've spent a night or two in my work van at MoFest, our local one, which is very small. When I went to the Breaking Bands a couple of weeks ago, we was in a hotel. So there's the camping aspect. I mean, I think you've got to be quite physically fit and mentally fit to do 4 nights of camping constant drinking, out in the elements. You know, so credit to anybody who does do it, but it's the expense. I don't know. It's just not something that's really ever appealed to me. I've thought about Bloodstock a few times, you know, because there's been some absolutely brilliant lineups, and you know, I should bite the bullet and go, even if it's just for a day, or you know, pick one where, you know, there's 2 consecutive days where I want to see bands, but sort of camping at a festival for sort of 4 nights, 5 days, or whatever doesn't really appeal. Although I'd imagine it's a fantastic experience. And I'm sure people who come away from it have some wonderful memories.
Yeah. Kirk, what about yourself? Have you ever thought about doing it, or just what's put you off it if you've not done it then?
I think over the last 20 years, it's been the expense. I've not always had the money. Now I do. It would be easy to fund now. But I also like going to European metal festivals. So a life-changing one for me was 2019, where my friend and I went to the Brutal Assault Festival, and that was just a who's who of extreme metal from the last 30 years. The Bloodstock Festival this year is superb. I mean, is it on day 2 when you've got Tom G. Warrior playing a Celtic Frost and Triptych on set, and Meshuggah are above them? It's absolutely incredible, the lineup. Yeah. I don't really have time right now, you know, because of running Scream Blast Repeat. I can't justify having 5 days away because I just fall behind with a backlog of reviews to do, and I don't have anyone to deputize at the moment. So that's the other thing. And I am going to a festival this year. I'm going to Radar Festival near Old Trafford, actually, in July, and that's my type of music. You know, you've got Periphery, Monuments, Hey, Pupil Slicer, bands like that are playing. But out of the 2, I would definitely choose Bloodstock over Download. Download I always associate with Kerrang magazine, which is not a bad thing because you get a wider range of bands. But I'm just looking at the lineup. You know, you've got great bands like Ginger there, and then you've got bands. This showed you how big rock music is. You know, me and Andy just cover metal, don't we? But the band Lorna Shore are right down at the bottom of the bill, and to me and Andy, they're like the big band in metal, aren't they? The breakout band, and they're right at the bottom. But yeah, I think you expect to see Metallica there, don't you? Whenever they're headlining, and Slipknot, Parkway Drive, Bad Religion. Good to see Placebo on there, Pendulum. Yeah, it's good lineup. I think there's
a good mix.
Yeah,
See, I would have always put Download, or I've always traditionally seen Download as a very generic. All of like the mainstay metal bands are on there. There's nothing new. There's no new stuff coming through. And actually, when I looked at this year's if you take out the first few top bands and you start going through it, there's a lot of bands in there that I have never heard of. Whereas when I actually went to Bloodstock one, I went, I've heard of almost every single band on here. So now it feels like Download are kind of going the opposite way, and they're bringing in all the new bands, and Bloodstock are becoming the more generic one.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the Download one, I was looking at going, I would have to do a hell of a lot of research there, because also if you've got multiple stages, I mean, it works out, it's about £100 a day a ticket, roughly, for Download, give or take on different days. Which, if you get to see 10 bands, that's £10 a ticket per band. You're doing well. But you've got to then work your way around to get around all 10 bands. And you've got to work out with the overlaps which tent you need to get to. So you've got a hell of a lot of work. And what put me off about going to festivals when I did Download, I think the first few times I did it was when it was Monsters of Rock. And we did Metallica's Escape from the Studio in 95. And then it was like Milton Keynes Bowl. But it was when you used to get near the front. And you'd be like, yeah, have a great time. And you're like, shit, I need a piss.
You can't get out.
Bollocks. Right, I've got to now spend the next 20 minutes fighting my way back out, have a slash, get a drink, have a great one, fight my way for the next half an hour to get back to the front again. You go, yay, shit, I need to eat something now. Head back out again. It's not an easy one to do. Whereas a 2-hour gig, you can kind of just get in there and find. I found with a lot of the last time I did Download, it was a case. I think that was the last big festival I went to. Mainly now it's just been gigs, but I just ended up not bothering going near the front. I sat further near the back and just watched from a distance, and just found a place, plonked myself on there was a bit of a slope on the grass, so I could sit on it and still see above people's heads. And I was quite happy, had a drink, chatted with friends. But the one thing that's actually changed for me is since back in when I was doing that, I lived in London, and I used to go out in London all the time. And I had no problem getting on the tube, being around crowded people, hustle and bustle. And then about 9 years ago, I moved out of London and moved to the countryside and found that I preferred open spaces, country pubs, quieter rooms. I hate going into London. I go into somewhere like on a Friday or Saturday night into something like I go to like the World's End on a Friday, Saturday night in Camden. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. There's too many people and I get anxiety from being, and especially after like lockdown as well. When you were all told, everyone was told to keep away from people, being around too many people stresses me out. And when we do like Club 85, I'm quite happy to be up by the mixing desk because we've got our own little space. Yeah. So at the final, I can kind of go up there and go, everyone, piss off, get out of my way. I'm going to sit up here. I'm behind the camera. I've got space. And then I have to fight my way through the crowd. I hate that bit because it's like, stresses me out. And that's why I don't think I could ever do a festival again. It's too many people. It stresses me out.
You said about, doing your research and perhaps making a schedule of who you want to see and what stage and when.
Yeah.
When I discuss sort of the big festival with my friends, the comment I always make to them is you've got to weigh up, you'll get the balance right, because I think part of the big, the festival experience, I'm sure people will agree, not that I've done it, but I'm sure, just chilling at your campsite with your friends, having a drink, having a chat, having some music playing, you got to weigh that up against, well, I'm here for a festival to watch bands. I should really be over here.
Yeah.
But, this is quite chilled. I'm enjoying myself sitting here.
So
you got to factor that in your schedule.
You do. I would be looking at it going, look at the bands on the schedule and going, which of these bands is likely to play a show in my area or near an area that I can go and see them directly? Like, for instance, Metallica, you're like, well, they're not going to come to my local gig anywhere time soon, so I'm not going to bother there. Whereas you might go, well, actually, a band like Ginger might play the Electric Ballroom. So actually, I could go and see them. So I won't bother seeing them at the festival, but I will see them at a local gig. And that's how I would probably balance it. But like someone like The Warning, because The Warning are playing Download.
Yeah, the one the same day as Bring Me the Horizon. I'm looking at that. What a weird lineup, right? So you've got The Warning, who aren't as big here, but hopefully will grow their audience. Next to that death metal band, Undeath, who are fucking brilliant, but really ugly music. And then you've got also the Manchester slam band Ingested on the
but it doesn't actually show you what stages they're on or what they're on. It just has a list, doesn't it?
Yeah,
they could be on a completely different rock stage somewhere else, and the other one could be on the main. So you're gonna have to split. But anyway, I think I've spent more time talking about Download than I was planning to today. We need to get on to the news.
All right.
Right, news from this week. So this is quite an interesting one. So Suicide Silence guitarist Mark Haleman says gatekeeping is a good thing within metal. However, Bad Omen singer Noah Sebastian has done a speech where he is welcoming new fans and says gatekeeping is a bad thing. Now, there's a lot of talk about the gatekeeping of metal, but the reason why Suicide Silence and Mark Haleman says gatekeeping is a good thing is because he says it opens discussion and it keeps energy within the scene. Whereas if everything's just completely open and no one talks about anything and pushes back and you get this push-pull within the community, he said that's a good thing within metal because it challenges people about people's aspirations or people's views on bands. Whereas the Bad Omen singer says, well, it's not just about your originality. Sometimes you can put out a single that's quite poppy and stuff, and you get a whole load of new audience came through that you would have never have got before, and we should be welcoming those people into the audience. So I just thought it'd be interesting because we talk about gatekeeping a lot on this channel, or we get accused of gatekeeping quite a lot on this channel. But I just wanted to share that because it's actually become quite a popular topic. I'm going to ask you guys about this next one though. Royal Blood this other week have caused a bit of an uproar due to the singer Mike Kerr. I was at a festival. Now this festival was a very poppy commercial festival, so it's not really their demographic, but because he wasn't getting the kind of response he wanted from the crowd, as he finished the set, he flipped off the audience. And this has caused quite a lot of heat in the press because of his attitude.
What does that mean, flipped off? Oh, right, okay.
Americanism, in it.
It's Americanism.
That's why I didn't understand.
The phrase we use.
So they have basically said that he was in a vibe and he was playing up to it because They weren't the standard sort of band on there. He actually said he really enjoyed the show, which I get a feeling from this. This is a case of they weren't expecting much of it, and then suddenly, because it was like a party in the park type gig, all the national press, BBC picked it up and all that sort of stuff. And now it's backtailing, in my opinion, that this is something he was pissed off. He's been caught out on it. He's basically now saying, "Oh no, I was just in a character and I was in this moment." And
yeah, I agree with you, Dave. That sounds like
I think he's just trying to backpedal, because there was no apology saying, "Do you know what? We were just pissed off and we shouldn't have played the show, maybe," or something like that.
Radio 1 Big Weekend was the festival.
That was it. Radio 1 Big Weekend. So yeah, not the sort of thing you expect a metal rock band on.
Are they? I mean, I've never really listened to this band. I mean, they're a duo, aren't they? I know that.
They're not bad. They're more my sort of thing.
Are they? First time I saw them was actually on Soccer AM. You don't normally get rock bands on there. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it didn't really blow me away, but they're well rated, aren't they, this band? There's always big hopes that they're going to crack America, if I'm right in thinking.
Yeah.
And I don't think
what would you say around, so with this sort of thing, flipping off an audience, now, because it's not your audience, it wasn't their audience, they're playing a festival thing. We've seen bands in local scenes where they've not had the response they wanted, and we've seen their performance deteriorate on stage before. I don't think I've ever seen anyone lose it or flip the audience off, throw their mic down, storm off. What's your thoughts on this happening? I mean, is this acceptable? Is this something where it's understandable in the heat of the moment? If you're rocking out for 30 minutes and the crowd does nothing and you're not getting the response, Andy?
I don't think it's acceptable. You know, if you're who is it? Did you say the band was Royal?
Royal Blood.
Yeah, I know Royal Blood. I'd have thought they'd have been going down quite well at the Radio 1 Big Weekend, to be honest. But you've got to, if you're any doubt about, you know, the gig you're on or the festival and your audience, you know, your anticipated audience reception, you've got to perhaps have that in your back of your mind and don't be 100% surprised if you know the audience doesn't get your show. But I don't think there's any need for that. If you're, I don't know, a hardcore band and you're playing to a hardcore crowd, then that's very sort of punky thing to do, isn't it? So
yeah,
in that sort of scenario, I think that's perfectly acceptable and perfectly expected, to be honest. But just because you think you're on the wrong bill and it hasn't gone quite as planned, I think that's just unprofessional and rude. And
yeah,
you know, it could be quite damaging, and I hope it is, to be honest, because I don't think that's right at all.
Throwing the toys out of the pram, isn't it? I mean, it's not
exactly. Yeah,
it's not as bad as let's use some examples from other areas. So Jamie Carragher infamously spat at a young girl, didn't he? When I'm gonna have to mention this, when Man United beat Liverpool 2-1 at Old Trafford, and Marcus Rashford scored both goals, and he was banned for 6 months from Sky Sports because these United fans were goading him in the car park after, and he wound his window down and spat at them. So I don't think it's like that, is it? Because I assume Royal Blood were not getting an aggressive.
They weren't getting booed. They weren't. They were just getting no response. As far as I can tell, they weren't getting booed at. They weren't being antagonized.
Mm-hmm.
They were just trying to get a crowd going, and the crowd were just like tumbleweeds. I'm going to guess going on there, and that wasn't what they wanted.
So it wasn't like that. And then I also remember a famous incident. The former health secretary Patricia Hewitt. This must have been 2006. She famously or infamously gave a speech to the Royal College of Nursing, and she had to be honestly moved off stage in tears because they just were throwing things at her and booing her.
Any metal references, Kirk? That's two completely.
No, I just wanted to put it in context. So we've got.
Oh, here's an easier context. Axl Rose didn't like getting booed, so he stormed off stage because he didn't like some things, and then there was a riot, and they flipped over police cars and stuff, and that was when Metallica got set on fire, when James Hetfield got set on fire. That's a better reference.
No,
come on.
Two contexts, so we can say, does it fit into any of those two? No, it doesn't. Yeah, Axl Rose. I mean, Axl Rose is just a prick, isn't it? He didn't like people taking photographs of him and security guards allowing it, and he kicked off. But no, I think they've thrown the toys out of the pram. I need to read more into the story. I'm only seeing the headlines. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. If they've put out a response, even if it doesn't include an apology,
we'll see what happens on the next
I need to read that before I can comment.
We'll have a look. Well, next week we'll talk about the libel case from Axl Rose against Kirk for calling him a prick.
I'm sure millions of people agree with me on that.
Okay, other news. So I don't know if you know much about Volbeat, the band, but Rob Caggiano has parted ways with them after 10 years. So Rob Caggiano was a guitarist also in Anthrax for a number of years. Is also quite a famous producer. So he does a lot of production work with bands, and actually came into Anthrax through production work and Volbeat. So that's how he kind of got into those jobs. Doesn't really mention anything in there, but they have got a new touring guitarist, which is Flemming C. Lund from the Arcane Order. Will be jumping into handle lead guitar. But there's also been a thing that came out today where he was saying that he was approached many weeks ago before the announcement of the split about whether he would be available. So there's definitely something going on there. But it's very much a very political way they've said it. We wish our brother Rob all the best with everything he does in the future. We know it's going to be great. And then just went on to thank you everyone for their support. So there's not really anything saying why Rob's decided to move on, whether it's a case of he just wants to move on to his own projects or if there's a disagreement between the band. But I know nothing really apart from the fact I do like Volbeat. It's very interesting vocal style from that particular band, very different to everything else out there. Any thoughts on that if you know the band, Kirk?
So do you know, have a guess why I don't like Volbeat? Or never listened to Volbeat, should I say?
Because of the name of the band?
Because of the name of the band. What is that? I know nothing about it. I have heard of this Rob fellow though. Is he from like the LA sort of thrash circle? Has he been in sort of
Anthrax,
Forbidden?
yeah.
Well, I didn't know him from Anthrax, but sort of bands prior to that, like Forbidden or somebody like that. That sort of
I
scene.
don't know.
No, it says I'm just looking here. So he'd been a guitarist in Anthrax, clearly not in the golden era, and then a new metal band called Boiler Room. I don't remember them.
Perhaps I don't know, but no, it's a sort of pretty standard part of the ways statement, though, isn't it? Wish him well in all his endeavours.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
They're from. Could it be that some of the band are obviously from Denmark, aren't they? So if he's in the United States, surely that transatlantic gap is going to present problems, even in today's globalized world. I think that's quite normal behind the scenes to be, if you get an inkling someone might be leaving, why not approach people in advance? Just say, don't mention.
Yeah, I mean, he may have said. It's interesting that it's not at the end of a tour cycle though. There's still tours going on. So normally you'd normally see it at the end of a tour cycle when they go in to record a new album, that you would see that partition, or unless there was a real difficulty in the recording and someone doesn't want to go out on tour, they'll make that announcement. But they're not coming off the back of a new album. So it's not like they've just done a new album, they're about to go on tour. They're kind of been on tours, they're going on tours, and it's kind of a decision at that point. So it may have been that life on the road is not what he wants to be doing. But I know that he is going on to work in some other projects that he's doing. So he has got some other musical projects lined up. So, okay, a couple more other topics. So, Till Lindemann.
I knew you'd mention this. We have to talk about it.
We have to talk about it. We're not going to go. There's a lot of claims. There's a lot of stuff being alleged around here. So I'm going to read it out here. So allegations.
We're not going to create clickbait.
So we've got allegations from women have been made about being drugged, and there are also claims about non-consensual sex acts. I'm going to read out a statement that was put out by the Metal Sucks website. In conversations with the reporters, more than a dozen women have reported how they have been specifically approached by several people from Lindemann's environment, often via Instagram or on the or at the concerts themselves, in order to come to after-show parties specifically organized by Lindemann. This is what happened in different cities across Europe, always with very similar process. The women were asked or should have sent photos of themselves in advance, or photos and videos were taken on site. The women were asked beforehand to dress attractively, to dress up a certain way. A woman reports that she was clearly informed that access to the concert and after-show party is only available if there is an interest in sexual intercourse with Lindemann, and that Lindemann, who is now 60, only wants very young women to attend. Some of the women were not asked their age, although they were offered free alcohol and illegal drugs at the parties. Several of these women have sworn their stories. In addition, numerous screenshots from WhatsApp and Instagram chats, as well as photos, document the women's statements. In response to specific questions from NDR and SZ, which I believe are publications, neither Lindemann nor the management of Rammstein commented on the allegations. People who initiated the contacts with the women did not respond when asked. So this is a very kind of, this has come from one particular source. How much of this is true? How much of this has been elevated, or how much of this, I mean, this could all be 100% true. So none of what I've read out today is our particular allegations or our particular statements. This is just what we're reading from the Metal Sucks website. So this could be some form of elaborate fabrication on top of that. But obviously this has got to be investigated in the correct way. Now, this kind of makes me think back to there's a couple of things in there. Obviously, if it's non-consensual, that's a big issue. That's something that needs to be investigated. The offer of women, if you're interested in sex to go backstage, makes me think of 80s metal. That whole kind of, you used to see the music videos, women throw their tops off. There is a lot of that. There's a lot of that. It's never went into public, but if you go a lot behind the scenes documentaries on a lot of the 80s hair bands, it was very commonplace for women but it was always consensual. So this is the bit, is the consensual versus non-consensual, because if that was all happening and it was all consensual, then there's not a problem there, to be honest. That's their choice, that people are allowed to do it, but it's the non-consensual element about what they've done.
It's still salacious behavior though, isn't it? Even if it is consensual. So if this is true, Till Lindemann of Rammstein, we love doing the pronunciation, by
Rammstein,
the way. He has literally got somebody procuring women. This is if this is true, to bring to shows. Yes, they're probably half his age, and playing them with alcohol, illegal drugs, and then the hope is that they will have intercourse or sexual relations with him. Now, one woman has said that it happened backstage at a show in February 2020. She was 22 years of age. Lindemann asked her to join him in a secluded room, and it was quite predatory the way she's described it. She couldn't really say no. She couldn't really get out of the room. And it's like when someone says fight or flight mode. People who are in this moment, often there's the third option, flop. You don't do anything. You're so rooted to the spot and scared and don't know what's happening. And even if you do know what's happening, you neither run away or put up a fight. So it's more complex than it really
there is. Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want to make judgment on either party. I'd hate for it I wouldn't like to think these women are lying though. Why would you lie about this? There are reasons why you would.
There's a lot to unpack around that. But I mean,
as well. Come on.
The one question I have here is, what do we see as the impact to not specifically Lindemann, but to Rammstein as a group now? We know what the impact of a sexual incident can happen when that happens to, specifically a lead singer. And probably the worst case of something like happening, that was the Lost Prophets. And when something comes out, now the Lost Prophets one was it's bad. That was way worse. There's a lot of
evil thing you can think of, isn't it?
It's the worst thing you can imagine. But in this case, how does this now impact Rammstein? Because he's lost, Till Lindemann's lost his publisher and his agents, I believe. They've stepped away. So could Rammstein continue if Till Lindemann is, if this goes further and it gets dealt with? Do you think Rammstein could continue with a new vocalist? Do you think they would still have the same level of power that this band has within the market? Because Rammstein is seen as the powerhouse from Germany. They are a worldwide phenomenon when it comes to art and industrial metal. So where do we see them going from here?
Andy, go on. What do you think? Can they continue?
I mean, for want of a better phrase, they're all at it, aren't they? Didn't they do a video that was basically a porno film, music video a few years ago?
Probably.
Yeah, they did. I'm sure they did. It's hard to say. I mean, if it's, I mean, I didn't know. I've only sort of heard, read snippets of it in preparation for tonight. I didn't really know that it was sort of non-consensually. It almost seemed like, as you said, Dave, it's what's been going on for decades. It's rock and roll, and the group is, and sort of women going backstage. But if it's predatory and non-consensual, and there's sort of drugs administered to sort of render somebody unable to make their own decisions, then that's very, very serious. I've known bands part with singers for far less than this, so it could be catastrophic for the band as a whole. They may sort of bite the bullet and sort of carry on with Lindemann if the allegations are proved to be unfounded, and they sort of move on from it. But yeah, I think we'll just wait and see.
I think given the current climate, and obviously I'm going to have to use the term cancel culture. One of the things people are critical of about cancel culture is that you are just judged to be guilty. But some of these crimes, if they are, well, that's the wrong word, some of these allegations are never taken to court, are they? So cancel culture does see an opportunity there using social media to ostracize people. And sometimes that can be successful. Look at Mason Greenwood, the Manchester United player, who's been suspended for 16 months now for serious allegations of rape with some really, shall we say, some of the evidence on that is just is frightening. But it puts us in an awkward position because we don't want to just be, oh, let's talk about this because it's clickbait and yet another rock star has turned out to be a bit of a pernicious threat and predatory, especially to young women. We don't like to see that happen, do we? And just because it's always happened in rock and roll doesn't mean that it should be accepted. Like you said, in the 80s, you knew it was going on, but it was behind closed doors. Same with Led Zeppelin in the 70s, some of those stories, you'd be in jail for some of those things.
Everything you hear about in those were always put across as consensual. That's the main thing. So when you saw, like, if you remember Metallica's A Year and a Half in the Life of video, they talked about showering with all the girls backstage. Do you see the Def Leppard documentary? It talks about girls being under the stage, fully naked with the guitar and rhythm sections during a drum and vocal solo. This was all consensual, and you see Kiss did it all the time, all consensual, and it was always put as, and that's where the big thing is, consensual versus non-consensual. I guess for me, what I would suggest, or what I'd suggest to see from Rammstein right now, was to be everything. Just stop everything. Don't do any tours. Don't try and continue. Don't do any. Just wait until the whole Lindemann thing has been investigated and you have an answer one way or the other. Because the other thing that's always going to be questioned is if this had been going on for a period of time, how did the band not know it was going on? That will be the next question. You're a band. You're on tour together. You're traveling around. How did you not see it? And that was something that was pushed for the Lost Prophets guys when that happened within their camp. And there was a question mark to the guys going, this has been going on for years. How did you not know it? And so that's going to be, I would be in Rammstein's point of view. If I was in the band, I'd be like, guys, no touring, no writing. We need to stop until everything is investigated fully, completely cooperate with this, find out what's going on. And whatever happens, whatever the outcome is, we then put a plan together and we deal with it then. Don't try and continue touring, don't comment on it, just stay completely out of it right now until it's dealt with, because whatever they say is going to put, whatever they say one way or another, it's going to get misconstrued or whatever.
There'd probably be a boycott if they had a tour ongoing anyway, wouldn't they? I mean,
yeah, they'd have a lot of
grounds
issues
to boycott it, but like I say, innocent until proven guilty. So it's,
I
don't know how helpful we're being. We've tried not to give our opinion on it. We're just exploring what might happen as far as exactly.
And just talking about it because it is a news, and you can't just go because we don't want to talk about it because it is topical at the moment.
Yeah.
Right, last bit of news before we talk a little bit about the Metal to the Masses coming up. We've got just an announcement around Social Distortion vocalist Mick Ness. Was recently diagnosed with tonsil cancer. He has had an operation and is currently in recovery. His current tour with the band is postponed, and the current album recording has been halted whilst he makes amends. So obviously all our best goes to Mike Ness in his recovery. Social Distortion, very big early punk hardcore band.
Yeah.
Right. We've got a lot of time over what I was originally planning for some of those discussions today. So but I want to do a quick roundup because Metal to the Masses this year, I thought last year was a really interesting, really good year, lots of great bands. This year, the standard has been astronomical within the Hitchin Metal to the Masses scene. And I wasn't expecting it when I looked at the band listings, because a lot of these bands I'd never heard of when we did the list. I'm going to quickly read them out so that we give a mention to everyone. And I believe I've got everyone here. So we have Estranger, Psycho Drive, Far From Refuge, Mudshark, War Torn Wings, Extreme Death Art, Hereward, Sentient, Own Your Life, Burdensome, As Vengeance Falls, Scarlet Envy, Silver Hex Before the Sirens, Lowdown, Millstone, Buried on Sunday, Drown, Swarmed, Keep This Up, Of Concrete Gods, Velofog, For the Hornets, Sudakara, Broken Tooth, Rive, Aquila, Whilst We Explode, and Dialect. I believe that was all of them. If I've missed one, I do apologize.
Lowdown. Say Lowdown?
Yes, I did.
All right.
So a lot of these bands, when we started this, I think I only knew about 7 or 8 of the bands because they weren't part of last year. And a lot of the bands that did it last year had done it for more than 1 year already. So they just, for whatever reason, they had decided it wasn't for them to come back again. If they didn't get to the final, they didn't win, it wasn't worth doing. So we had a few returners. I'm not going to embarrass us by saying who we thought were going to be at semi-final, final stages, because I think our predictions weren't too accurate based on our original thoughts. They weren't.
Go for it. If you got it to hand, Dave.
I haven't. But we will, when we get to the final, we will actually pull our original final list as comparison. But I wanted to spend a bit more time, but we've got 8 finalists, which I did have written down a minute ago, but we do know who they are. So the first one we've obviously got this weekend. We've got Scarlet Envy. We have Sentient. We have who else do we have this weekend? Extreme Death Art
and Velofog. Yeah.
So we've got those first 4. And then the following weekend we have
I've got it hand
on Sunday. Lowdown.
Hereward.
Sorry?
Extreme Death Art.
Hereward and Burdensome.
Hereward and Burdensome. Thank you very much. I was sitting there going through my list and trying to remember them all. So it's a really interesting mix. What's been the biggest surprise for each of you this year?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it. What band or what band either getting knocked out, what band going through, what band's performance? What has been the overall biggest surprise for you?
The most surprising band has been Velofog. I don't think they sound like anything in the competition.
Yeah.
There's something, I think you said it in a previous, there's something, you almost end up transfixed, because when you watch their set, it starts like a Warrior Soul, Jane's Addiction with a bit of Rage Against the Machine, and then there's Steve Vai in there, and like really heavy rock and roll, like a down-tuned take on Van Halen. So I think they are just, you can't really, it's hard to describe what their music is. So I think they definitely deserve a mention for doing something that's way outside what you'd expect to see here. And it's heavy. There's a lot of shredding in there. So it's music for metalheads, really, isn't it? They're just doing it from an angle you wouldn't expect. I don't want, at the risk of repeating myself, I am surprised the Killer are not in the semi-finals. Other surprises, I really like how Extreme Death Art started the competition. They're just friends who hadn't played together for years, didn't have a vocalist. They found one for the quarterfinal, and that's just taking them to the next level. And they're a good outside bet to win this. And then finally, I'm surprised Broken Tooth and On Your Life, obviously mentioned. I'm surprised the hardcore bands haven't got to the semi-finals. I think with Broken Tooth, people were just a bit too scared of them in that quarterfinals, myself included. We all just stood back. They were so aggressive. We were like, oh shit, what should we do here? Because they didn't have their own crowd with them. So I think that really surprised me that they didn't progress. But it's great to see One Final Play returning bands who are just so much better now. Sentient and Buried on Sunday. And Scarlet Envy, even. We saw them last year. They've just stepped up, haven't they? You can see the evolution, certainly of those 3 bands, especially Sentient. I think they're the band to beat, really, aren't they? You don't want to be on the same bill as them. They're so powerful live.
Okay. Andy, for you, what's been the biggest surprise for you or shock?
Just tick everything Kirk said, because that was going to be my sort of discussion points. Extreme Death Art, as you said, I'm really pleased they're in the semi-finals, but their heat was their debut gig. They didn't have a vocalist. The guy came in on the quarterfinals. He looked very nervous on the first song, but from that moment on, he absolutely nailed it, and they deserve to be in the semis. I'm disappointed that Own Your Life didn't progress through their heat. I'm disappointed Broken Tooth didn't get through their quarterfinals. But yes, Sentient for me, their performance 3-4 days ago was absolutely blinding. on the back of the new EP coming out, they absolutely smashed it. Yeah, I mean, it's a good semi-final lineup. Yeah, it's been brilliant. You know, I would like. I had some favourites I wish had progressed further. You know, there's been some disappointing moments, but it all goes back to what we said. I'm looking through the sort of the Metal to Masses pitching Facebook posts. I didn't realise the quarterfinals was a 50-50 split. I thought it was more heavily weighted for the judges. It's from the semis that it's 70-30.
Yeah.
So even in the quarterfinal stages, you can't rely on the judges sort of rating your performance and your stage skill and your songwriting. You need your crowds. You know, looking forward to next year's event. If you get to the quarters, you still need to get your crowd down if you want to progress, or what will help you progress. But yeah, can't believe we're in the final leg. 3 more shows.
Final three weekends. We've 12 weekends gone, and we've got 3.
We'll have a winner.
I mean, yeah, I pretty much agree with what you guys have said. There isn't. I mean, Velofog were the band that kind of Velofog and probably Sudakara were the 2 bands that kind of maybe go, what the hell's going on here? And Sudakara, just because I've seen that style of music before, but they just came out with brutality, not necessarily brutality musically, but with an attitude.
Yeah,
they were thirsty. They wanted something, and they wanted to rip people's heads off on that first show that they did in their heat. Yeah. They were really on it. Velofog, no matter what I did say about their music video, they're still a great band. Really live. Yeah.
We need to reiterate
put on a great show. They do put on a great show, and they are very different.
I missed their heat and I missed their quarterfinal. I've missed 2 in this competition, and it's both their performances. So, you know, I wasn't blown away by that music video that we discussed, and I must admit I haven't looked at your footage, Dave, which is a little unfair to them. So they've got the opportunity to sort of surprise and impress me on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 things that stood out for me were, it's definitely been that the bands that we would have tipped at the start of this competition when we knew them, the heavier bands, getting knocked out. And that's been a conversation we've had each week about being surprised by the winners each week, not necessarily because they were bad and the other band was good, but it wasn't always the favorites in our heads. It wasn't always the biggest bands. But what I noticed was these other bands, the bands that got knocked out, were not pushing them and getting people down to the gigs. And we've said this from day one. It's all about any band can get to the semi-finals if you bring a crowd. And we said that from day one. It's about bringing your people down. And also, it's not just about, you could get through to the final if you don't bring a crowd, if you get the secondary votes. Now, Sentient don't always bring a massive crowd, but they're so powerful. They pick up a lot of secondary votes as well from people. And that's why they are, they've developed each time. They bring crowds, but nowhere near the crowds of some of these other bands, but they've always been able to maintain because of their performance. Other bands like Broken Tooth, phenomenal performance, but the issue they had was they had lighter hard rock style bands on the bill. And if you've got 2 of those and they've both got big crowds, their second vote is most likely going to get swapped between the 2 people. So you really need to bring a crowd down. And I think for any band for next year, talking about the heats, the quarters, you've got to bring your crowd down for those. Obviously, we're going into the semis. We're in the 70-30 split now. However, if you imagine it's 70% of it going for the judges, if the judges' scores are all very, very tight, then the audience vote is going to come into the play. And that's really where your audience still needs to be there. So it's not a case of now you don't bring anyone. You've still got to bring a big crowd, because that can spin it.
At this stage, Dave, the judges' votes are going to be very, very close, aren't they? I mean, I've judged one, and the categories, you'll get a score out of 50. It wouldn't surprise me if everybody's in the high 40s, mid to high 40s, and as you said, what's going to differentiate and make that split between who progresses is going to be the audience votes. 30%. However they do the sums, the audience vote's still very important.
They've got to bring them. So that's what we want to see. My other biggest thing I've noticed this year compared to last year is each band has done something different or improved in their quarterfinals. So last year, I remember bands playing their heats and then coming back for their quarters and almost playing exactly the same sets with no major variances. This year, I've seen bands play a heat and then they've come back in a quarter with a visual backdrop. They've got videos playing, new intros, new songs being dropped in, new stage performance, uniform changes. I'm like, wow, these bands are really taking this seriously and they are trying to up their game. So I can't wait to see what these bands are bringing for the semis, because I'm expecting like pyro shows now. I want to see swinging trapeze acts going across the stage or something. If I don't get it, I'll be very disappointed. But none of us are voting. We're not judges in any of these, by the way. So, well, we are from an audience point of view. But it's going to be a close one to call. So again, this weekend, Scarlet Envy, Velofog, Sentient, and
Extreme Death Art, is it?
Extreme Death Art.
What a lineup that is.
I mean, we're not going to go into it. We're not going to say who we think is going to win it because
No.
it's unfair for us to comment on that. But obviously, once we get to the finals, we're going to get whoever is in the final. We want to get you all on at the same time on the channel, have a chat about the whole road to the final. It'd be great to have the final bands there, because then it goes down to Simon, of course, to pick his band for the for Bloodstock. So all we can say really at the moment is all the bands that are in the semis thoroughly deserve to be there. And we can't wait for the show, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Just one thing before we end the live stream. Again,
Yep.
is it me? The prog metal bands, I love that type of music. And they don't, if you look at, we've had some great entries. Far From Refuge, fascinating music, great musicians, quite a lot of space in their songs. And then the debut show from that band, Writhe, they were playing a really strange form of progressive deathcore with doom elements. And to them, they didn't have a crowd because that was their first show. And I when I interviewed the guys, they just wanted to play their first show and start on that journey.
Yeah.
And it's good to see. Like Extreme Death Art are the same. I think they're just friends who just are really enjoying playing together for the first time in decades. At least two of them, I know that's the case, Andy, from when you interviewed them as well. And look how well they've done to get there. But yeah, I am a bit disappointed like that the prog metal bands don't get further. Swarmed, I thought they were excellent. But it's just down to personal taste, isn't it? It doesn't always translate well live, does it? Prog metal, because there are a lot of dynamic.
There's an element of
ups
that.
and downs, yeah. So and contemplate.
Again, audience. If you look at a lot of these bands, the Swarmed are not local. They weren't really local to Hitchin. So again, getting your audience down. That's why you have local heats, because you're more likely to get an audience. I have one last question for each of you. Favorite headliner so far? Obviously, we're in the semi. You can't talk about your semi-finals like Countless Skies and stuff like that. Who has been your headline show that you've been like, wow, they were amazing?
I'll get me posters up and remind myself. So carry on without me.
Kirk, anything
I'll
come to
go
mind?
they're my favourite contemporary death metal band in England. For Beta, I think they're excellent.
Phobita, yeah.
But I did like Denali. I keep going on about that. They're just so powerful, aren't they? They've all been great, but yeah, I would say for me it was Phobita.
I should have gone first again because that's exactly the same as I was going to say. I was really pleased. We've interviewed them and we've talked about the pronunciation. For Vitor, I think it is. Well, we could debate it all night, but yeah, for Vitor, appreciate them coming up and performing for us. And Denali opening, the opening heat as well. Love those guys.
Acadian, fucking hell, how did I forget them? They were excellent last week.
Yeah,
I like Acadian.
I'm into that.
I think for me, it had to be Kadama. I just love Kadama's music. So for them to obviously come from being in the final last year, it'll be really good. But we will, of course, revisit Metal to the Masses in a couple of weeks' time when we talk about the final. We won't cover it next week, but we will the week after for the final. In preparation for the final. Final's on a Saturday this year. Last year it was on a Friday. So that's good news. Saturday means I don't have to get up for work the next morning. Finally, I can have a Sunday where I don't have to go to Metal to the Masses in the afternoon. It'll be yay!
I know. I'm looking forward to it.
Sunday evening free. Yay!
Going back to work on Monday is so difficult, isn't it? After the heat.
Yeah, I have to stay up late editing. That's what I do when I get home on a Sunday evening. I start uploading footage until 1 a.m. Yay! What a life I live. But anyway,
and we really appreciate, Dave. I know you don't always get the shout outs from the compare, but
I don't ever get a shout out from the bloody
once
compare.
you did. I think once you did, but
last year I think it was.
Yeah, I love your roundups. It's a good summary of the show, same as last year's competition as well. I look forward to them being uploaded, a day or two after each heat. So great record of the competition. So it'll always be there, won't it? We can look back.
I'm hoping maybe this year, like we've done the fan cam, maybe we can ask everyone that's going to the final if they want to upload, do their own fan cams and send it in to us, and then we can then pull all the fan cams from everyone and include it in a video at the end.
Definitely.
And get all the fans to send in their own little clips chatting about it, and I'll capture all the live stuff and they can just send us all their
That's a good idea.
thing, and then it basically saves us from filming it.
Yeah.
If I can get one of them to edit it, it would be amazing. It would be brilliant. Right. Well, I just want to say a thank you to everyone that joined us on the live weekly chat. We'll be back next week again. It will be, I think Wednesday's kind of work at the moment for it. So 8 p.m. next Wednesday. What will we talk about? Who knows? We will see what happens, but we will see everyone next week. Take care, guys.
All right.
See you later.
And the stream has ended. There we go.